For centuries, countless explorers walked into this place and never came back. Tonight, we dive into the question no one has been able to answer. What exactly is inside the haunted hazard zone that makes it so deadly, and why has no one survived long enough to tell us? Hidden far from civilization lies a forbidden stretch of land locals called the haunted hazard zone. It's a place where compasses fail, radios fall silent, and the bravest explorers vanish without leaving a single clue. Today, we not just telling a story, we uncovering the chilling truth behind one of history's most dangerous mysteries. Deep within one of the most isolated regions on Earth lies a place so unsettling, so shrouded in dread that even the most fearless explorers hesitate to speak its name. Locals refer to it only as the haunted hazard zone, a stretch of land that looks ordinary on the surface: dense trees, rocky terrain, a low mist drifting through the valleys, but the moment you step closer, you feel something change. Something in the air grows heavier, like the land itself is warning you to turn back. Generations of people living near its borders swear the zone is alive in a way no forest or mountain should ever be. They talk about sounds with no source, shapes that flicker between the trees, and an overwhelming sensation that you are being watched from all angles at once. The first thing you notice when you approach the region is the silence. Not the peaceful kind you hear in untouched nature, but a sharp, unnatural silence that feels manufactured, as if every living creature has learned to avoid this place. Birds won't fly overhead. Insects won't cross the boundary. Even animals disappear from the area entirely. When you stand near the perimeter, you'll feel your heartbeat get louder, your breathing deepen, and your instincts, those ancient survival instincts, begin screaming that something is very wrong. Local elders say the land wasn't always like this. They claim the haunted hazard zone became cursed after an ancient event, something catastrophic and unrecorded that scarred the ground permanently. According to them, the zone was once a settlement, a place where a forgotten civilization built ritual sites and stone markers that even today are half buried in moss. But something happened, something powerful enough that the entire population vanished without leaving a single human remain. Not a bone, not a tool, not a trace of their existence except the stones they carved. Since then, the land has acted like a boundary between worlds, a border no human should cross. As explorers began documenting the region, the first reports were extremely strange. Maps drawn from different expeditions never matched. Landmarks appeared and disappeared. A hill that was present one month would be flat the next. A river seen by one group would be dry as desert dust by the time another arrived. The more researchers tried to map the zone, the more inconsistencies they collected, until one thing became clear: the landscape behaved like something shifting under the surface, rearranging itself in patterns no one could predict. Those brave enough to approach the interior reported their compasses spinning wildly, pointing in impossible directions. The magnetic field inside the zone seemed broken, fragmented, as if the land itself was interfering with time and direction. Some explorers felt sudden dizziness or nausea the moment they crossed the boundary. Others said the air felt electrically charged, like standing in the middle of a storm that never came. Equipment malfunctioned without explanation. Batteries died instantly. Cameras glitched, and radios produced only a low, humming frequency that sounded almost like a whisper. Villagers from nearby settlements have their own stories. They claim that at night the zone glows faintly in certain places, illuminated by cold blue light with no identifiable source. Some say they've seen towering figures moving between the trees, too tall to be human, too silent to be living creatures. Others insist they hear voices carried by the wind, calling out names, repeating phrases, or whispering warnings that no one ever taught them to understand. Many refuse to live anywhere near the area, believing the land consumes those who enter it, swallowing them physically or spiritually. But the most chilling detail is the feeling every person experiences when standing at the edge of the haunted hazard zone. Visitors describe it as a pressure, not painful but heavy, as though the ground itself is pushing them away. Others feel a curious pull, instead an invisible force urging them to take one step forward, then another, luring them deeper into the unknown. Some say this is why so many explorers were drawn in willingly, ignoring their fear, convinced they were on the brink of discovering something extraordinary. Every element of this zone, from the distorted geography to the dead silence to the inexplicable fear that hangs in the atmosphere, suggests that something inside is operating beyond human understanding. This is not a place shaped by ordinary nature. Something about its presence defies logic, challenges reality, and raises the unsettling question of whether the land is dangerous simply because it's unstable or because it's aware. The first documented account of explorers vanishing inside the haunted hazard zone came from an expedition more than a century ago, long before the land was surrounded by warnings and superstition. Back then, the world was in an age of discovery, and explorers believed there was no place on Earth that human courage and determination could not conquer. The hazard zone challenged that belief almost immediately. Led by a seasoned adventurer named Elias Hawthorne, the team consisted of geographers, botanists, and skilled trackers who had survived some of the harshest landscapes on the planet. Yet the moment they crossed the boundary of the zone, they unknowingly stepped into a territory where none of their experience mattered anymore. Hawthorne's team sent out daily reports for the first few days. Their early entries were optimistic, describing dense forests, strange rock formations, and an unusual stillness that they found intriguing rather than threatening. But the tone shifted rapidly. By the fourth day, their notes expressed confusion. They reported encountering the same clearing multiple times, despite changing direction. They described hearing sounds that seemed to mimic human movement, footsteps circling them, branches snapping behind them, and low murmurs that resembled whispered conversations. Yet, whenever they turned, there was nothing. No animal tracks, no shapes in the trees, no sign of another living being. The final entry from Hawthorne himself was hastily written, barely legible, and drenched in a sense of rising panic. It read, "The forest is changing around us. Distance makes no sense. Light does not behave normally. I fear we are being guided somewhere." Those were the last words ever recorded by the expedition. When a rescue team followed their route weeks later, they found only fragments of equipment near the perimeter, scratched, scorched, and arranged in a pattern that looked almost deliberate, as if someone had placed them there to be discovered. Decades later, a second expedition entered the zone, determined to uncover the truth behind Hawthorne's disappearance. This group was more advanced, equipped with radio transmitters, specialized navigation tools, and trained survivalists. For the first time, the world would have audio communication from inside the hazard zone. For 2 days, the transmissions were stable. The team described an environment that seemed to distort distance, making long paths feel short and short paths feel endless. Then, on the evening of the third day, their signals started to warp. The rescue station monitoring the transmission reported that the explorers' voices became delayed, overlapping in ways that didn't match real-time speech. Some parts of conversations repeated without anyone speaking. Others sounded like they were being echoed back by something else in the forest, a voice similar but not identical to the team members. The final transmission was the most terrifying. A panicked voice shouted, "It's under us, move!" followed by heavy static and a long, distorted screech that no audio specialist has been able to explain. That was the moment all communication ended. When search parties entered the zone a month later, they found deep, circular markings burned into the soil, as though something had risen from beneath the ground. But, again, there were no bodies, no footprints, and no clues that could explain what happened to the team. Other smaller expeditions met similar fates. A group of local hunters vanished without leaving behind even their weapons. A pair of journalists investigating the legend entered the boundary and were never seen again. Border villagers claimed they heard desperate cries echoing from the forest at night during the search efforts, but when they followed the sound, it always seemed to drift deeper into the zone, as if leading them somewhere they weren't meant to go. One of the most chilling accounts came from a single survivor, a man found wandering miles away from the zone, dehydrated and disoriented, with no memory of how he escaped. The only thing he kept repeating before losing consciousness was, "We weren't alone. It followed us." His medical tests later showed no signs of physical trauma, but his psychological state told another story. Even months after his rescue, he refused to close his eyes at night, convinced something from the zone was standing behind him every time he did. Historians collected every story, every journal fragment, every attempted map drawn by those who went in. But the pattern was always the same. Once the explorers reached a certain depth, the forest seemed to shift, the light changed, and their sense of direction collapsed completely. Time behaved unpredictably, sometimes stretching, sometimes shrinking, until the explorers were trapped in a loop of confusion they couldn't escape. Every expedition ended with the same eerie silence that swallowed their final messages. Eyewitness encounters around the haunted hazard zone are some of the most disturbing accounts ever recorded. Not because of what people saw, but because of what they felt, heard, and sensed long before anything physical appeared. These aren't the dramatic sightings of creatures leaping from the shadows. These are subtle, creeping experiences that make witnesses question their own sanity, encounters that begin quietly and spiral into something deeply unnatural. Each story adds another layer to the growing belief that whatever exists inside the zone is intelligent, aware, and watching. One of the earliest eyewitnesses was a shepherd named Kalen, known in his region for his strong nerves and unshakable calm. He would graze his animals near the outer edges of the hazard zone, careful never to step beyond the invisible border. But one evening, as a thick fog rolled over the fields, Kalen noticed something odd. His herd stopped grazing all at once, lifting their heads in perfect unison, staring toward the mist-shrouded boundary. Animals don't fake fear, and when every creature around him trembled, Kalen felt a wave of dread wash through him. He described the fog as breathing, expanding, and contracting as though something inside it was alive. Then came the sound. Not loud, not threatening, but unmistakably human. A voice calling his name from within the fog, repeating it slowly, stretching the syllables like someone learning the word for the first time. Yet he was alone, and no person he knew had that voice. Another witness, a forest guide named Mira, spoke of a night she camped with colleagues near the edge of the zone. Their fire crackled normally at first, but suddenly the flames elongated, rising straight upward as if pulled by an invisible hand. The air around them went still, dead still. No wind, no natural night sounds, only silence pressing in from all sides. Myra heard footsteps circling their camp, but the ground beneath her was soft soil, so she expected footprints when daylight came. Instead, she found nothing except a ring of ash around their tent, perfectly formed, as though something had walked in a precise circle, leaving a burnt path. Myra swore the footsteps were human, yet the circle was far too large for a single person to make without breaking pace. Her voice shook as she said, whatever it was. There were more than 2 legs. The most unsettling encounters come from those who claim the zone doesn't just observe, it mimics. Several villagers reported hearing familiar voices coming from the forest. A husband heard what he thought was his wife calling to him from beyond the tree line. A mother swore she heard her lost son crying deep within the woods. Every time someone investigated the sound, it drifted farther away, always pulling them closer to the boundary, but stopping just short of luring them inside. Witnesses described these voices as almost right, but not quite, like a recording played by someone who didn't fully understand emotion. Then there was the incident involving a team of hikers who accidentally ventured too close. One of them, Leora, described seeing a figure standing still among the trees, silhouetted against the fading sun. She called out, thinking it was another hiker, but the figure didn't respond. When she moved closer, the figure seemed to move too, but not by walking. It shifted locations between blinks, appearing closer each time. The hikers fled instantly, and when they reached safety, Leora realized something horrifying. The figure had no facial features, just a blank, smooth surface like a human shape carved from shadow. The zone also leaves behind physical traces that make eyewitness testimonies harder to dismiss. Hunters found trees with claw-like markings spiraling upward in a pattern no known animal could produce. Geologists studying rocks near the border discovered perfectly spherical holes burned into solid stone, as if something had bored through them with intense heat. Even the ground carries evidence wide. Shallow depressions shaped like footprints but far too large and too evenly spaced to belong to any creature on record. One of the most disturbing pieces of evidence came from a ranger who placed motion sensors near the perimeter. Every night, the sensors triggered alerts, but when he reviewed the footage, there was never anything visible on camera. Instead, the audio picked up rhythmic breathing, slow, steady, and close. The breathing always stopped at the same exact distance from the lens, as if whatever approached knew the range of the camera. Each eyewitness account, each fragment of evidence, paints the same chilling picture. The haunted hazard zone is not empty, it is not abandoned. It is not silent. Something inside observes, echoes, and responds, but never fully reveals itself. For decades, scientists from around the world have attempted to investigate the haunted hazard zone, believing that behind all the legends and whispered warnings, there had to be a logical explanation, some rare environmental phenomenon, a geological anomaly or an undiscovered natural force at work. But every scientific attempt, no matter how carefully planned or technologically advanced, ended with more questions than answers. Researchers walked in expecting to solve a mystery. Instead, they found themselves confronting something that refused to fit within the boundaries of known science. The earliest scientific mission came shortly after the second major expedition disappeared. A group of geologists, led by Dr. Reynold Everett, proposed that the zone might sit on top of unstable tectonic structures. Their theory was simple. Distorted magnetic fields, tremors, and gas emissions could cause hallucinations, disorientation, and disappearances. It sounded reasonable until they actually reached the perimeter. Their instruments behaved erratically before they even crossed the boundary. Compasses spun uncontrollably, seismographs detected tremors that didn't exist, and electromagnetic sensors overloaded with readings too high for the region's geology. Everett famously said, "Science is built on patterns. This place has none." Undeterred, another team approached the problem with atmospheric equipment. They studied air composition, pressure changes, and temperature fluctuations. What they discovered defied all known meteorology. The air near the boundary held microscopic particles that didn't match any natural source. They weren't pollutants, spores, dust, or mineral fragments. When examined under powerful microscopes, the particles appeared crystalline, almost like tiny shards of glass. But the strangest part was how they moved. Even in a completely sealed environment, they drifted in spiraling patterns, responding to forces that scientists could not detect. Some researchers suggested these particles were responsible for the odd fog patterns seen around the zone. Others believed they might react to sound or vibration in ways modern science doesn't understand. Then came the biologists who were convinced that some unknown species or perhaps multiple lived inside the zone. They placed baited cameras and motion traps near the boundary. Every time, the traps were triggered in the dead of night. But no animal was captured, and every camera malfunctioned just moments before activation. One biologist observed something chilling. The traps weren't damaged or tampered with. They were reset, as if something inside the zone understood how they worked and deliberately neutralized them. The team attempted to go deeper, but one by one, the researchers felt overwhelming nausea and disorientation the moment they stepped beyond the first line of trees. Their sensors registered a dramatic shift in electrical charge, as though they had walked into a giant invisible field. They retreated immediately, and none ever tried again. Perhaps the most unnerving scientific attempt involved a team of physicists who suspected that the zone might be experiencing localized distortions in space-time. Their idea sounded like science fiction, but they weren't theorizing blindly. They had evidence from previous expeditions, misaligned maps, inconsistent time logs, and reports of days feeling like hours. The physicists set up synchronized atomic clocks on tripods just outside the perimeter and positioned identical clocks inside the zone via drone drops. When the clocks were retrieved hours later, they no longer matched. The internal clocks lagged behind by seconds and, in some cases, entire minutes. The discrepancy was too large to be a mechanical error. Something inside the zone slowed time down, unpredictably and unevenly, creating pockets where time simply didn't behave normally. One bold team attempted to send robotic rovers inside, believing machines might fare better than humans. The rovers made it only a few hundred meters before their systems failed. Live video feeds showed flickering shadows, sudden drops in temperature, and moments where the visual feed seemed to stretch and distort like a warped mirror. The last successful rover transmission revealed something that shook even the most skeptical scientists: the rover's own shadow standing several meters away from it, as if detached from the machine entirely. Government agencies eventually intervened, conducting classified studies that produced heavily redacted reports. But even in those documents, one detail remained clear: the zone could not be explained by current scientific frameworks. Every environmental, geological, and physical theory broke down inside its boundaries. The data refused to obey equations. The readings contradicted each other. And the deeper scientists looked, the more they realized this place was not simply dangerous, it was operating under rules that humanity had not yet discovered. All the stories, all the vanishings, all the scientific failures lead to one central terrifying question that no one has been able to answer: what force, whether natural, supernatural, or something entirely unknown, is driving people away from the haunted hazard zone and ensuring that none who cross its threshold ever return? This is the core of the mystery, the problem that has haunted researchers, locals, and generations of explorers who dared to even consider stepping inside. Every clue, every scrap of evidence seems to point towards something intelligent, something aware, something that reacts to human presence in ways no environment ever should. The first theory proposed was simple: perhaps the zone itself is a natural death trap. Toxic gases, unstable ground, or hidden fissures could easily explain disappearances. But that theory quickly fell apart when scientists realized how selective the zone seemed to be. Animals avoided it, yet none were found dead near the perimeter. Plants grew in strange patterns but showed no signs of poisoning. The few machines that entered didn't decay or melt, they malfunctioned in ways that suggested external interference, as if something inside was actively disrupting them. A natural hazard could cause death, but it wouldn't prevent bodies from being found. It wouldn't hide equipment. It wouldn't erase footprints. Another theory suggested the land hosted some form of high-level electromagnetic anomaly. But anomalies don't mimic human voices. They don't arrange abandoned equipment in patterns. They don't create shadows that move independently of physical objects. And they certainly don't produce synchronized sounds that mimic someone's name being spoken from deep inside the fog. Something more deliberate seemed to be happening, and the theories shifted accordingly. Some researchers proposed the possibility of a still undiscovered apex predator, something adapted to the zone in ways humans couldn't comprehend. But predators don't shift landscapes, they don't interfere with time, and they don't mimic the precise voices of loved ones to lure people deeper into the forest. Predators kill for food or territory. Whatever lives inside the zone, if it even counts as alive, behaves with intention but without any purpose we can understand. The next idea ventured into more unsettling territory. Perhaps the zone is a tier, a thin place in reality where two different forms of existence intersect. Ancient cultures often spoke of such locations, doorways between worlds where spirits moved freely and the laws of nature behaved unpredictably. The symbols found on stones near the zone, carved by the lost civilization, depicted spirals and overlapping circles that some archaeologists interpreted as representations of layers or realms. These carvings weren't just decorative. They looked instructional, like warnings left for future generations. If the zone truly sits on a thinning between worlds, then everything experienced there distorted time. Mimicking voices, shifting landscapes could be the result of stepping too close to a place where reality bends. And then there's the theory that chills even the most rational minds, the idea that whatever exists inside the zone is aware of those who approach it. Too many eyewitnesses describe the same sensation, the feeling of being watched, measured, studied. People don't describe it as fear. They describe it as intrusion, as if something is evaluating them, deciding whether or not they should come closer. The mimicry of voices, the rearranged objects, the rhythmic breathing captured on audio, these aren't random. They suggest an intelligence that doesn't think like we do, but reacts, learns, and adapts. Even more disturbing is how selectively the zone reveals itself. Some people hear voices while others hear nothing. Some see shifting shadows while others see only trees. The zone behaves differently depending on who's watching. It's as if it shapes the experience to the individual, showing just enough to disorient them, but not enough to reveal its true form. This isn't how land behaves. This is how a presence behaves. Then there's the matter of the disappearances themselves. If the zone were a simple killer, there would be evidence: bones, torn clothing, remains of any kind. But nothing returns. Not even the equipment that goes missing deeper within. Whatever happens inside doesn't leave leftovers, it leaves silence. And that silence has only strengthened the belief that the zone is not destroying explorers, it is taking them. For what purpose, no one knows. Some believe it absorbs them. Others believe it transports them. A few even think the explorers are still alive somewhere within, trapped between layers of a fractured reality. The truth remains hidden, waiting inside a place where no one who enters ever comes back to tell the tale. Every unsettling story, every disappearance, every strange observation leads us toward the final, lingering truth about the haunted hazard zone, the truth that explains why. Even today, no government, no explorer, no researcher, and no local villager dares to step foot inside. It isn't because the mystery has been solved. It's because the deeper people looked, the more they realized that this place doesn't want to be understood, and whatever exists inside it absolutely does not want to be disturbed. The conclusion that people eventually reached wasn't born from fear or superstition, it was born from patterns, from undeniable evidence, from centuries of silence coming from the inside of this land. The earliest warnings came from the villagers, who insisted that the zone was not something to be conquered, but something to be respected. They said the land had a heartbeat, a presence, a consciousness that grew stronger the deeper one went. At first, these claims were dismissed as folklore. But as the disappearances continued, outsiders began to see the villagers' perspective in a new light. They had lived beside this place for generations. They had listened to the night sounds, watched the fog move as though it had purpose, and observed how even the bravest animals refused to wander near the boundary. Their silence was not ignorance, it was survival. Researchers who studied the compiled evidence noticed something peculiar. No matter how many expeditions were mounted, no matter how many technological upgrades were used, the zone always remained one step ahead. When scientists attempted magnetic mapping, the readings scrambled. When time displacement theories were tested, the clocks misaligned. When drones were sent in, they malfunctioned only when reaching specific depths, as if crossing into invisible triggers. This wasn't randomness, it was consistency. The zone acted almost like a living system, responding to intrusions, blocking understanding, and controlling how much information escaped. And then there was the behavior of the environment itself. Landscapes don't rearrange themselves overnight, yet explorers documented paths that shifted, hills that flattened, rivers that appeared where none existed before. Light behaved unnaturally, bending, elongating, dimming in ways that didn't match the position of the sun. These weren't weather events or natural tricks of the eye. It was as though the zone manipulated perception, forcing those inside to see only what it wanted them to see. Every expedition reached a point where they no longer trusted their senses, where they no longer knew whether they were moving forward or in circles, whether they were alone or being followed. The silence from within the zone became its own message. In every disappearance, the same pattern emerged: no distress calls, no evidence, no aftermath. For a forest filled with life, storms, predators, and ever-changing terrain, that level of total erasure made no sense. Whatever took place inside happened quickly, efficiently, and with absolute finality. The zone didn't just kill. It removed, it erased, it ended stories without leaving chapters behind. One detail stood out across multiple accounts. The zone reacted differently depending on the intentions of the people approaching it. Explorers who came with arrogance or determination to conquer the land experienced aggressive phenomena, voices shouting, shadows stepping closer, compasses spinning violently. Those who approached with curiosity or caution felt a gentler, but still unnerving pull, a quiet lure deeper into the heart of the zone. Some researchers noted that these reactions resembled a form of testing or probing, as if the zone was evaluating intruders, deciding how to respond, deciding who could go further and who could not. No natural hazard evaluates anything. Evaluation implies intelligence. The most chilling reports came from those who analyzed the audio, visual, and environmental data collected from the perimeter. Patterns emerged, repeating frequencies, synchronized shadows, pulsating magnetic waves that rose and fell like breathing, all pointing to the same inescapable possibility. This place was not an accident of nature. It was a system, a mechanism, a presence operating on principles humanity had not discovered yet. As the years passed, the scientific community quietly stepped back. Governments closed the area. Locals refused to speak of it publicly. And an unspoken rule formed around the haunted hazard zone: leave it alone. Every attempt to understand it had ended in silence. Every step taken inside had resulted in permanent disappearance. In the end, people finally realized that whatever dwells within the zone does not merely exist in isolation. It protects itself, adapts to threats, and ensures that its secrets remain untouched. And that is why this place remains one of the last untouched, unchallenged, and unknowable locations in history, a region where explorers enter with questions but never return with answers, a place that watches, reacts, and waits for the next person bold enough to cross its boundary. As we step back from the haunted hazard zone and reflect on everything uncovered, one thing becomes impossible to ignore. This place was never just a stretch of cursed land or a forgotten patch of wilderness. It was a living tapestry woven from fear, tragedy, unanswered questions, and the relentless human hunger to uncover what hides beyond the edges of the map. Every explorer who stepped into that zone carried with them a belief that skill, courage, and preparation could overcome anything. And yet, the zone swallowed them one by one, leaving only fragments of their presence scattered like clues in a game no one ever wins. The stories of their final moments form a strange mosaic. Some accounts speak of eerie silence so complete it forced even the bravest men to doubt their senses. Others hint at unnatural disturbances, echoes that mimicked voices, shadows that moved without light, whispers carried on winds that seemed to blow from nowhere. Whether these phenomena were supernatural, environmental, psychological, or something in between, every strand of evidence circles back to the same disturbing truth. Something inside that zone breaks the line between what is real and what is imagined. But even more unsettling is how the zone itself seems to change depending on who enters it. Skilled climbers lose their path on familiar terrain. Experienced teams split up without reason, tools malfunction, compasses spin wildly, hours vanish. People report feeling watched, followed, or lured deeper by sounds that seem crafted just for them. Patterns like these suggest the zone is not just dangerous, it is adaptive. It's as if the land learns from each new intruder, shaping their fears, their weaknesses, and their instincts into traps only they can fall into. This strange intelligence, whether born of natural forces or something unexplainable, creates a place where logic dissolves. And that raises the question that has haunted every investigator, every rescue team, and every surviving witness. Is the danger in the zone physical, psychological, or something entirely outside human understanding? The truth may lie somewhere in the overlap, a place where environment, energy, memory, and fear intersect in a way science has not yet learned to measure. The more we look at the explorers' journeys, the clearer it becomes that they were not simply lost. They were absorbed into the mysteries of the zone, becoming part of its history, part of its warnings, and perhaps even part of the strange presence that people still claim to feel when they stand near the boundary. Their stories echo like unfinished sentences, demanding answers yet refusing to give any. What truly makes the haunted hazard zone stand apart is the way its legend shapes those who hear it. Rational minds begin to wonder whether a place can hold on to the emotions of those who died within it. Curious listeners start to question whether the boundaries of the zone shift over time, stretching outward, waiting for the next person bold or foolish enough to test it. Where fear meets curiosity and where curiosity meets the unknown, humanity always finds a reason to return.